So much to talk about today. I'm going to kick it off with the number one question from yesterday. Big news in the world of oil, and of course that sets the tone for the entire year. A surprise announcement from the federal Liberal government. How BYD is changing everything in the auto industry, and that's good for us. And then a little something you might have to worry about at the end of the video. First up, the number one question after yesterday's inflation report is, where do I see rates going in March? As of right now, and I mean right now, with what we know at this moment, I see them holding rates in March. Why? There's way too much uncertainty, and there's too much of a gap between Canada's interest rates and the US interest rates. As we've seen over the last couple weeks, Canadian dollar is gaining strength as the US dollar loses strength. If the tariffs kick off in March, that could shake things up a bit because that'll slow down the global economy. The US might cut rates, then we can cut rates. But as of right now, as of today, I see them holding in March. All right, big news in oil. Brazil is going to join OPEC+. Why is this a big deal? Well, the more countries that are involved with OPEC+, the greater power they have over controlling the supply of oil, over fixing the price of oil. This is less competition in the market, and in the oil game, they compete on price. And speaking of the price of oil, it's had a little bit of a bump today because OPEC is saying that they are not going to increase production in the second quarter of this year. And that's not a surprise. The economy is not booming, so there's no reason to increase production. On top of that, there's this tariff threat, which is going to slow down the global economy and reduce the demand for oil. And going back to what I was saying about rates, a hold for March, I'm not saying a hold for the rest of the year. They're going to cut the rest of the year. All right, surprise announcement from the federal Liberals. Trudeau announces $3.9 billion high-speed rail between Quebec City and Toronto. It's a fantastic idea. I thought it was a great idea back when Kathleen Wynne and the Liberal government here in Ontario suggested it. Their plan was to go from Windsor all the way to Quebec City. Now, I think it's a much, much, much better idea than digging under the 401, which is what Doug Ford wants to do. If you don't live in Ontario and you've never seen the 401, trust me when I say there is very little land left to make the 401 bigger, especially in the GTA. The 401 connects Windsor to the Quebec border. It is the backbone of Ontario. Doug Ford wants to tunnel under this and double it with a tunnel under that. While the federal Liberals have said, just get on with it and put in high-speed rail, as is the case in Europe, as is the case in Japan, as is the case in China, high-speed rail will help spread the load from Toronto to other neighboring communities. Speaking of China, BYD's strategy shift is bad news for global automakers. Yeah, you know how they told you that they were putting a 100% tariff on Chinese electric cars to save jobs? No. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about your job. What they care about is preserving the sweet, sweet software money that they're charging you for. Yeah, if you didn't know, many of the features in your car are set by software, not hardware. And many companies are charging a monthly subscription to make sure that those features still work. If you stop paying your subscription, the features stop working. And BYD is saying, that's ridiculous. We sell cars. The software is cheap. Let's just give it away. Now, I gotta admit something. It's one of the reasons I love Volkswagens, because I can access the software in my Volkswagen with an OBD11. Yeah, there's a little diagnostic dongle under the dashboard. You can plug this in and it connects to your phone through Bluetooth. And then you can just go ahead and enable all those features that Volkswagen would normally charge you for. What features are we talking about? Well, for example, power windows and central locking and how the key fob works. There was a guy in California that owned a Tesla and took the key fob chip and had it implanted in his arm so they wouldn't have to have the key fob with them to get in and out of the car. I used my phone and enabled that without surgery. So now, as long as the key fob is somewhere on my body, I just touch the doorknob and the door opens. I think that was a $2,000 option. And this was a couple $100. Also, the central locking and the central opening, I can open all the windows with the key fob. And I can shut all the windows with the key fob. I set the car up for automatic locking. So if I walk away from the car with the key fob, it automatically locks in case I forget. And there's a bunch of other little features here. But basically, I saved about $10,000. And that's the problem with these subscriptions, is that it's just software. It can be defeated fairly easily. That's why auto companies don't want you to be able to fix your own car, because fixing this is trivial. And it's a cash cow. And BYD is spoiling the party. BYD thinks they should just build a better car at a better price. And so far, that works. 100% tariff on electric cars from China to save your job is a bullshit story. All right, to wrap it up, NASA increases probability of city killer asteroid striking the Earth to 3.1%. Yeah, if you haven't heard, there's an asteroid heading our way. And the initial estimate was that it was a 1.6% chance of hitting the Earth. That went to 2.8%, and now it's gone to 3.1%. The estimated impact is the end of the year 2032. Right now, they're thinking it's going to hit somewhere around the equator, but that could change as well. I was really hopeful that the constant catastrophes and crises would end by the time we got to 2030, but apparently we're going to get a parting gift.